presentation of Fox Sports.
We are Baltimore. We are Ohio.
Well, we had rain about an hour and a half ago, and now all of a sudden the skies are clearing, and we have a beautiful night for baseball in downtown Cincinnati. And we welcome you to Great American Ballpark, opening game of a 3-game series between the New York Mets and your Cincinnati Reds. And look who's in the house tonight, the Cowboy, Jeff Brantley and Jim Day. I'm Tom Brenneman. Welcome as always to Reds baseball. You know, this last week has been a very good week for the young pitchers in this Red starting rotation. The last 2 times out, it's been really good work by tonight's starter, Sal Romano.
Yeah, Tom, I think for every young pitcher, you constantly push to find that comfortable zone, a rhythm, if you will, when you get out on the mound. And the last couple of times out for Romano, it seems like he's starting to find that internal rhythm, not just with the fastball and not just with the breaking ball, but we've seen some changeups as well. And it didn't just come against an Atlanta Braves team. It came against the first base Cubs, and he threw the ball awfully well, especially to some of their big boys in their lineup.
Romano gunning for a 3rd straight impressive start tonight. Joey Votto has been knocking the cover off the ball. Now all of a sudden nobody wants to pitch to him.
5 walks in a ball game. The thing that amazed me about watching Votto in this 5-walk game, and it's the 2nd one of his career, and this just doesn't happen very much, but what amazed me the most is he was down 2 strikes in the first 4 of those at-bats. A 1-2 count, continued to foul off pitches. He single-handedly ran Jameson Taillon from the ball game.
Let's shift gears to the opponent tonight. It's hard to believe here we are the last 3 days of August, and it's the first time all year long the Reds have seen the New York Mets. They had high hopes in the Big Apple when the season began, and it has been downhill basically since the very start.
If you don't pitch, Tom, and that's where the Mets really hung their hat, if you don't pitch, you don't win. And most of their starting pitchers, except for Jacob deGrom, have had some major problems health-wise.
Tonight, it's gotten so bad they've traded a lot of players. They have players injured that longtime infielder Jose Reyes was taking fly balls today in preparation of starting out in left field.
Great speed at the top of the order. I think Terry Collins would like to have him in the lineup somewhere, but with Ahmed Rosario, one of their top prospects, playing shortstop now, you put this guy in the outfield and you hope what we just saw on camera doesn't happen in the ballgame.
Well, if you're a Met fan, you're hoping it doesn't happen in the ballgame. The Reds will take it all day long. When we come back, news and notes time from the main man on the Reds beat, and that is Jim Dick. He's got it covered from one end to the dugout all the way through the Reds clubhouse and into the manager's office. Next.
A look at the forecast for the game tonight. There will be a slight chance for a
Cincinnati Reds baseball on Fox Sports Ohio is brought to you by Chevy. Check out their award-winning lineup only at your Tri-State Chevy dealer. And by Skyline Chili. Feeling good, it's Skyline time.
Hi, I'm Local 12 News meteorologist John Gum. A look at the forecast for the game tonight. There will be a slight chance for a passing shower or stray thunderstorm early on in the game here, right around 72 degrees at the first pitch, heading to 70 degrees by the 7th inning. And as the game goes on, rain chances go away. Skies clear out by the final out. We're at a comfortable 69 degrees. Enjoy the game right here on Fox Sports Ohio.
Sometimes a team just has another team's number, and to say that the Mets are in that category, for the Reds, at least the Mets having the Reds number, might be an understatement. In fact, 14 straight wins versus the Reds. I said 14 straight wins. This dates back to 2014, scoring nearly 6 runs a game, and they've been playing long ball in this season series during this 14-game stretch. 26 home runs given up by Reds pitching. But you know, the law of averages in baseball tends to even out. The Reds hope it starts tonight, and they hope Sal Romano continues his role. Another rookie goes to the hill. First of 3 versus the Mets. Tom and the Cowboy next.
In Connecticut, just outside of New York. He'll be facing the Mets here tonight. Romano making his 11th major league start, and his best have been his most recent against Atlanta and Chicago. Terry Collins, 67 years young, in his 7th year as manager of the New York Mets, and his starting lineup presented by Menards. Reyes in left, Nimmo in right, Asdrubal Cabrera, the second baseman. Wilmer Flores down at third, swinging a hot bat. D'Arnaud behind the plate, and a young slugger at first is Dominic Smith. Latter third of Rosario, the big prospect as well at short. Lagares in center. And it's Chris Flexen making his 7th start on the mound. The numbers for Romano.
Overall numbers, not exactly what you would want them to be, but you're talking about a young starter. Every start is going to be different. The last 2 for Romano have been awfully good.
Well, the one number you don't like, the 25 walks from Romano in 52 innings. His first pitch to Jose Reyes. His ball 1 in this game is underway. 73 degrees, very low humidity. Beautiful night for baseball tonight. 2-0 to Reyes, who's had an outstanding career, but he's not had a good year. Just came off the DL, playing in the outfield for the first time in his career tonight. Just a .230 batter with an on-base percentage of .293. 2-1. Well, there was one time he was among the most feared players in all of baseball.
Well, he's still got good speed, but back in the day, not only did he have good speed, but he could hit the ball out of the ballpark. I mean, he was a very dangerous offensive player.
Reyes this year became only the 9th player in Major League history. Here's a 2-2. Is high. With 100 or more career triples, 100 or more career home runs, and 500 or more stolen bases. It's pretty impressive. And was a dazzling shortstop at one time. That's not the way to start the game for Romano. He walks Reyes. Reyes has 15 steals and 18 tries. We look at the Reds on defense. Presented by Ford. Jeanette at second base. Suarez back in there. He had Sunday off. And Barnhart hanging his signs.
Nimmo was one of those guys that the Reds talked about. Actually may have been in the original trade when the Reds sent Jay Bruce to the Mets.
His name was brought up frequently. Grew up, born and raised, still makes his home in Cheyenne, Wyoming. You don't see a lot of major leaguers come from that part of the country. He's only 24. 2011, he was a 13th overall pick in the draft. So this is now his 7th season in the Mets organization, and has still not been able to establish himself as a regular big league player for a #1 pick.
And probably would not be getting this opportunity if not for the departures of Curtis Granderson, Jay Bruce. Got Cespedes on the DL, Comforto the same way.
Yeah, I mean, it's been one injury after another, and then you couple that with some of the injuries to the key parts of the Mets starting rotation. 2 of their big guns, and Noah Syndergaard and Matt Harvey. They're hoping to have both of those guys back by the time September comes around, but it's been one saga, whether it be injuries or whether it's been situations involving personalities away from the field. Syndergaard and Harvey would fit that bill.
Well, the only guy in that rotation that's been able to take the ball with some semblance of regularity has been Jacob deGrom.
Swing and a miss. Good hard slider down and into the left-handed batter, and that's a strikeout for Romano.
Well, Romano moves into the stretch, and all of a sudden things start to simplify a little bit, starting to get the ball back down in the strike zone. That's an awfully good breaking ball right there. It starts up around the belt, and the bottom falls out of it, and it's a strike all the way until the swing.
Asdrubal Cabrera, the longtime Cleveland Indian shortstop, so he's played in this ballpark a lot of games through the years. .256 batter, 10 home runs, and 39 runs batted in. It's his 2nd year with the Mets after all those years in Cleveland. Wound up being dealt to Washington in 14 and then spent a year in Tampa Bay. Had a good year for the Mets last year, not so much this year.
You know, back in spring training, Tom, this Mets club had 4 outfielders for only 3 spots with the guys I mentioned earlier. Now they don't have any of those guys, and you're trying to fill your spots. Now Juan Lagares is a pretty good center fielder now. He's got a Gold Glove under his belt, but he's never been an offensive player.
We're starting to mention, earlier you mentioned the names, and Conforto was an all-star this year. He had a nice bounce-back season after a great rookie year, and then remember he went all the way back down to the minor leagues and was playing well. Cespedes, they've decided to hang their hat on him, and when he plays, he's good. One of my favorite sayings is often quoted by the Bengals radio analyst Dave Lapham, former great offensive lineman. One of my favorite sayings in the world, and he uses it all the time. The most important part about ability is availability.
You can't just show up and play when things are going well.
Good hard fastball in on the hands, and that ball drifts out of play. 2 balls and a strike. Conforto injured his shoulder swinging the bat, and we've often wondered up here how more guys, as hard as they're swinging these days, how this doesn't happen more often, either with a shoulder or with an oblique.
And normally for Conforto, it's not an over aggressive swing. He stays behind the ball, tries to shoot it the other way, but that was an ugly issue there.
Pitch in the dirt, and that will allow Reyes to evolve and advance on to second base. A wild pitch on Sal Romano. 3-1 on Cabrera. Brian Price's team begins tonight 55 up, 76 down. Reds are 15.5 behind the front-running Cubbies in the National League Central Division. The Mets at 57 and 73, 22 behind Washington. The only team in the East worse than the Mets is Philadelphia. This ball driven down into the left field corner, so the leadoff walk comes around to score on a double by Cabrera, and it's 1-0 Mets after 3 batters tonight.
Pitch got a lot of plate. It was down. Pretty good piece of hitting by Cabrera. Normally a left-handed hitter hits that ball, the ball slices foul. That one stayed pretty true down the left field line.
Wilmer Flores 2 days ago in Washington hit his career high 17th home run of this season. Hit 16 a year ago and in 15. 10 of those home runs have come in just 111 at bats here over the second half of the year. I'd love to have a $5 bill for every player in this 2017 season that sets a career high in home runs. I mean, they are everywhere, with the record number of home runs being hit in Major League Baseball during this 2017 season.
I think I was looking at some numbers from Buster Olney the other day. This 20 home run thing, I mean, we're about to double what we had last year. I think there was about in the mid to upper 50s last year of guys in the major league level that had 20 or more home runs, or at least 20, I guess is probably the best way to put it. This year, we're approaching 100. And we got a month to go.
And the same thing about guys that hit 30 compared to last year, 40. I mean, we've already got a player that's hit 50 home runs, and we have over a month left in the season this year. And Romano is falling behind every batter so far in the game tonight, except for the only out he's recorded, Nimmo. Came with a fastball on 3-1, hit hard, but lined out to Billy Hamilton by Flores. 2 outs in the inning, runner at second base, and the Mets catcher coming up. Well, there's a reason why those top three teams right there are where they are. Now, the Cubbies and the Mariners are both teams in the hunt, more than in the hunt. But if I'm not mistaken, on that Cubs 98, I think there is a huge chunk of those allowed in 3 games. Lester, if I'm not mistaken, in 1 game gave up 10. There's a liner to the shortstop to end the inning. A run, a walk, a hit. 1-0 Mets with the Reds coming up. First inning, Mets out to a 1-0 lead. And Brian Price's starting lineup presented by Menards. Looks like this. Hamilton, Cozart, Votto. Duvall in the cleanup spot. Jeanette in the 5-hole. Suarez back at third. Schebler in right. Barnhart catching. And Romano on the mound. Just turned 23. Native Californian Chris Flexen, 6'3", 230-pounder. Has arrived to the big leagues after being a 14th round draft pick coming out of high school.
Well, you look at the walk numbers, 20 walks in 28 innings, and you combine that with the hit numbers that Flexen has allowed, you're almost double hits and walks per your innings pitched, and that is a recipe for disaster. 54 base runners in 28 innings. That doesn't count the 2 he's hit.
Tell you what, though, he's put up some pretty impressive numbers in the minor leagues. Now you can say, well, what does that mean in the grand scheme of things? Believe me, there are a lot of guys pitching in the big leagues right now that did not put up very good minor league numbers. They never have. They just rushed him through the system on teams we've seen all over baseball. Last year this guy went 10-9 with an ERA at 3.5. This year he started all the way down at Single-A St. Lucie, then went to Double-A Binghamton, went 6-1 with a 1.7 ERA to begin the year. And they brought him all the way up from Double-A. What a play that is. Mercy, mercy by the second baseman and former shortstop Asdrubal Cabrera. That's an outstanding play.
Well, it takes a good play like this to get a base runner like Billy Hamilton. If you try to glove that ball and then try to get it out and make that throw, Hamilton's probably going to be safe.
First pitch fastball in there, a strike to Zach Cozart. Zach, a 308 batter, another guy who set a career high in home runs. We could go right down the list in this Reds lineup tonight in that category. Starting with Cozart, Votto will end up with a career high. Duvall will end up with a career high. Jeanette already has a career high. Suarez has a career high. Schebler has a career high. So you get the drift. Now, in fairness to guys like Schebler and Duvall, it's really their second year playing in the major leagues. Nonetheless, more home runs than a year ago.
You know, what we do know is we have a whole bunch of strikeouts in Major League Baseball, and we've got a whole bunch of home runs. And
a lot of walks.
And if you make your pitches as a pitcher,
very close, and Cozart able to leg it out. Good effort there by Ahmed Rosario. He had time to actually plant there.
Now this is part of not knowing exactly who is running and why he's able to run or not run. Got a young shortstop in Rosario. Tries to make a great play, and he wasn't able to get enough on the baseball. But you're right, Tom. If he plants there and comes up and throws a line drive across the middle, he'll get Cozart.
Five-time National League All-Starler Joey Votto, the batter. Sunday had the 5 walks, which tied for a club record. He had done it one time before. Huey Kritz did all the way back in 1926, and Johnny Bench did it in 1979. Votto twice. Joey leads the major leagues in walks, on base percentage, and ranks among the top 10 in the National League in a number of categories. Just had an excellent year. And tonight, of course, playing in his 1400th game, all as a Cincinnati Red.
You know, I just believe, Tom, that for Votto, whatever he sets out to do in an at bat, he can pretty much do it. If he went to the plate and he wanted to walk every time, I think he could do that. I think he could foul off enough pitches to just flat wear the pitcher out, as he did Tyon in the ball game against Pittsburgh.
Well, in the last 100 seasons, no Red has walked in 6 straight plate appearances. He's a pitch away from doing that. Brad Hawpe, of all people, back in his days with Colorado in June 2008, was the last major league player to walk 6 consecutive plate appearances. And there you have it. First Red to ever do it. May not be the most exciting thing in the world, but it is Reds history.
Coming into this ball game for Flexen, he had faced 133 batters in 6 starts. 73 of those batters, somebody was on base. I mean, there is a whole lot of traffic when this cat's on the mound.
I mean, this is the epidemic we're seeing, and we started to talk about it for a long time over the weekend. We talked about it a little bit already tonight. I mean, there are so many guys that are pitching in the major leagues right now that you just ask yourself,
why?
Yeah. And I'm not picking on Flexen. We've seen it from the Reds. But between expansion a couple of times over the last 30 years, coupled with all of the injuries like we've never seen from pitchers in the history of baseball.
And I think that's the biggest key. You have injuries to your staff like we've seen with the Reds in recent years and with what the Mets are going through. If you don't have significant reserves, then you're going to dip down to a guy like this that was in Double-A. I mean, let's think about it for Chris Flexen. He started the year in A-ball. That's Port St. Lucie in the Florida State League. Then he moved to Binghamton, which is Double-A. And now he's in the big leagues. He didn't get a full year either place. And this is a guy that's coming off Tommy John surgery a year and a half ago.
Well, the dysfunction that took place in this Mets team, and in particular with its pitching staff, is just mind-boggling. You know, the whole Matt Harvey saga where he doesn't show up for a game and turns out he has to apologize because he was out with his buddies. The Noah Syndergaard thing is just, you actually can't believe that anybody would have the gumption to tell their employer that, no, I know my body, I don't need an MRI. And so then you come back out and you pitch a couple of innings and you're done because you never got the MRI and you were injured to begin with.
Well, there are some players that get a mulligan, and that was his mulligan. They'll never trust him again.
And boy, you talk about a talent. Oh my. Syndergaard, what, 6'6", 240 pounds, and can throw the ball through the wall. But again, you get back to the line we had earlier: ability and availability.
Well, why would you even make a comment as a pitcher that you want to throw the ball harder than anyone's ever thrown it before? Do you think you're going to lift weights and be able to throw harder? It's a God-given talent. You either can do it or you can't.
Swing and a miss by Duvall. He's out of there on strike. Yeah, those are the comments that Noah Syndergaard made before the season began. And all the weightlifting and all the power weightlifting he was doing during the offseason. Look at the Mets on defense, presented by Ford. Most of these guys you probably never heard of because of all the injuries and or trades that we brought up earlier, especially in that outfield. David Wright's been shut down officially now for the year as of this week again. It's too bad. There's a guy who's a gamer.
This is a whole lot different Mets lineup and team than what we saw the last couple of years. There are very few players that are in the lineup that were everyday players.
But this was a New York Mets team. It's easy to forget. It was only 2 years ago. I mean, this time 2 years ago, this team was getting ready to play in the World Series in October. They beat the Cubs in the National League Championship Series that year.
Well, if you think about it, Tom, the last couple of years they have worn the Reds out. What is it, 14 consecutive ball games that they've won? But this is a whole different looking Mets team than what we've seen at least the last couple of years.
2-0 the count on Scooter Gennett with 2 on and 2 out. You know, we mentioned Jose Reyes playing out in left field. The only other time he has ever played in the outfield, you got to go back to the year 2000 in August that year. He was all the way down on a rehab assignment in the Appalachian League in rookie ball. Oh, in 2000, I beg your pardon, I saw 2010. 2000, that's when he was 17 years old. That's when he was coming up through the Mets system. That's how long ago that was. 2000. Boy, think how his life has changed since those days. It'd be indescribable. Came over from a Dominican, probably couldn't speak a word of English, didn't know anybody. Playing in the Appalachian League.
To write a book.
Three balls and a strike. And the Reds have the bases loaded on a 2-out walk to Gennett. Take a look at the opening day lineup for the Mets. Duda traded. Walker. Reyes still here. Cabrera still here. Cespedes on the DL. Granderson traded to the Dodgers. Jay Bruce traded to the Cleveland Indians. There are a lot of people that believe that there's a legitimate chance that Jay Bruce would sign a contract with the New York Mets as a free agent at the end of this year. Bruce said he really enjoyed his time there, and the Mets enjoyed having him.
I think they're just like with New York with any player. There are ups and there are downs. And it seemed like when Jay got there, they were so down on him because the expectations were so great of making a trade. Then they find out what kind of player Jay is and what kind of person Jay is. Well, all of a sudden now they'd like to have him back. It's a full 360.
They are loaded for Suarez, and it's ball one. 28 pitches, 17 of the 28 are balls.
Well, this is how Flexen has pitched. But once he's gotten to where he has no room for error, he's been able to get some outs.
Not this time. Suarez hooks it into left field. 1 run will score to tie the game. They'll hold Votto as Reyes fires it back into the infield. So it's a 1-1 game on a Suarez base hit.
Not a bad pitch by Flexen. It's a breaking ball. It's for a strike. But the way that Suarez is swinging the bat lately, probably should have bounced it.
He has had an incredible month of August, better than a .330 batter. He now has 20 runs batted in and an on-base percentage this month of over .480. It's got to be the best single month he's ever had in the big leagues, all around. May not be the most RBIs, may not be the most, well, certainly would be the most home runs, 8 of them. But from a walk standpoint, a batting average standpoint, on base percentage standpoint, no doubt the best month of his career. And a new career high, not only in home runs, as we mentioned, with 24, but now in runs batted in. Finishing strong. Scott Schebler, the batter. A ball and a strike on Scott. Schebler 6 of 19 on his homestand with a couple of home runs and 5 batted in. That ball's in the air to deep right center field, and that is a grand slam for Scott Schebler.
That looked like Schebler just went out and hooked that ball. Looked like a backdoor. Actually, that was something off speed. I was going to say backdoor slider, but that was just ugly.
It's the first career grand slam for Scott Schebler.
Well, that's what you're supposed to do as a hitter. They spin it up there or hang it up there, and you've got runners aboard. You crush, and that ball was crushed.
26 of them now for Schebler and 55 runs batted in. Reds this year now have scored 245 runs with 2 outs in an inning. That is the 4th most among all teams in Major League Baseball. That's good 2-out hitting. I think everybody agrees this, may not be a perfect lineup, but it's a pretty doggone good lineup. And there's strike 3 called. 8 of them bat, 5 of them score. Highlighted by the Schebler grand slam, the first of his career. And the Reds off and running at the end of one, a 5-1 lead. That's what we were talking about, all the injuries, especially to the pitchers on both of these teams. Take a look at the opening day starting rotation for each team. So digest that for a minute. And then we will flip it to the current starting rotations. One guy
out of 10.
Out of 10. Jacob deGrom is the only one left. Last man standing. It's hard to believe, isn't it?
It is hard to believe, because your basis for your club, not just your everyday players, but you'd like to have your starting pitchers be there every 5th day, so you know what you're counting on as an everyday player, as a manager for that matter. I can see losing 1 or 2, even 3, but everybody, come on.
And of course, for the Reds, that came on the heels of the 2 guys they thought would front the rotation when spring training began, being Homer Bailey and Anthony DeSclafani, and they never threw a pitch in spring training. DeSclafani has still not pitched all year, and there still has to be internally anyway for that young man. And I think I told you when he found out the news that it was the best news he could have received after he left his rehab start, 3 weeks ago down in Daytona, or down in Dayton, that things would be moving forward, and there just doesn't appear to be much news at all. Is that Brandon Finnegan down there?
Appeared to be.
Well, I'm not even sure I'd have recognized him down there. Now here's an interesting guy for the Mets, and they want to see how this young man plays, moving forward through the rest of this year, and he's going to get a chance to play, and that's Dominic Smith. This guy was promoted from AAA Las Vegas. Now, we always remember that is a hitter's paradise, that town and that league.
But you still have to hit the ball.
You still got to hit, and that he did. He hit .330 this year with 34 doubles, 16 home runs, 76 runs batted in just 114 games.
And you look at the numbers for Smith here in the big leagues. I mean, he's a guy that likes to swing the bat. He's only walked a couple of times since he's been called up, and that's 50-60 at bats. He wants to swing.
He'll be taken care of to begin the inning.
Well, you would hope having your club score you 5 runs in the bottom of the first inning after you gave up a run to begin the ball game would allow you to settle down a little bit, try to find that rhythm, kind of ratchet back that adrenaline that you have when you start a ball game. Now it's about managing the ball game and making pitches.
Ahmed Rosario, they're very excited about this young fella as well. Cowboy talked about him right at the start. Last 2.5 weeks, he's given them reasons to be excited. He has 4 home runs. He's been a .290 batter, getting on base, scoring runs. Another guy with AAA this year is an all-star. 21 years old. It's interesting to note, as there's a bouncing ball to second, that Rosario was the youngest Met to debut since Didison Herrera, who's now in the Reds organization, came over in the Jay Bruce trade. He was 20 when he was brought up to the Mets in August of 2014. In fact, that was 3 years ago today.
Wow.
3 years ago. And of course, the Reds have been waiting and waiting and waiting. When they made the deal, Herrera was having shoulder problems. And those shoulder problems continue. all but ending his season at the AAA level this year.
Well, it affected him last year when the Reds got him. It really affected him in spring training this year. We didn't even get to see him play the field for that matter.
Weak pop up by Lagares, and that's a nice inning for Sal Romano. 1-2-3. Reds lead 5-1.
Break brought to you by T-Mobile. Anytime you break a record in Baltimore held by Cal Ripken Jr., you're doing something. Adam Jones, 7 consecutive 25 home run seasons, which is a new O's record. In Kansas City, they need some runs. They've been held scoreless 4 straight games, 43 consecutive innings. The 1906 A's and the 1968 Cubs hold the record for consecutive scoreless innings at 48 straight. And keep in mind, no team in Major League Baseball history has ever been held scoreless 5 straight games.
Sal Romano to lead things off. Jim Day, thank you very much. Reds batting here in the last of the second inning after getting a 5 spot in the first, highlighted by a grand slam from Scott Schebler. First time he's ever done that in the big leagues. And Romano gone on strikes. That's the 3rd strikeout tonight for Chris Flexen. Now back to the top of the order we go, and Billy Hamilton.
Well, Flexen has done something that he doesn't normally do, and that's actually get a leadoff batter out to begin an inning. Of course, he did get Hamilton to start the first. He gets Romano here. The Reds put a 5 spot on him after he got Billy Hamilton.
And it took a dazzling play to retire Hamilton. That was the play made by the second baseman Cabrera. This ball will fly over the head of Jose Reyes. You can't blame him for playing so shallow. But this is going to end up a 1-out double for Billy Hamilton.
Well, you can play shallow if you can turn and go get it, i.e. Billy Hamilton. But you don't play shallow when you have a tough time catching a fly ball anyway. And that's ugly. But it just shows you where the Mets are as far as their left field. They started Matt Reynolds out there just a couple of days ago. He's a shortstop that came up through the minor leagues as a shortstop. He's not a left fielder either.
Zach Cozart, the batter. He started the 5-run rally with an infield hit deep in the hole at shortstop. He scored on the 2-out single by Suarez in front of the grand slam by Schebler.
The one thing about playing up here in the big leagues, nobody feels sorry for you. If you've got problems and there's a huge hole in your defense or in your rotation, other teams are going to exploit it and expose it until you close that gap.
One ball and one strike, the count on Kozai. Fouled away. MLB.TV every night, every device. Watch every out-of-market regular season game live. Plus, you get a free subscription to At Bat Premium. Visit MLB.TV for details. Still a ball and two strikes on Kozai.
You know, Tom, you start looking at the end of the season numbers, and granted, it's coming up quick. If you're a team like the Reds or a team like the Mets that are not in the hunt, from an individual standpoint, I can remember hearing those guys in the dugout. Not the Reds particularly, but when I was playing, hey, we're facing this club, let's get healthy.
That ball is stung by Kozai, and that's a nice leaping play. We brought up earlier the good defense by Lagares. Fires it back to the infield. Hamilton tags and goes to third. He'll stop there with two away in the inning.
And I don't mean get healthy in a physical sense. I'm talking about get healthy in a statistical sense. Because at the end of the season, when they go back and look at your numbers and you're hitting 259 rather than 260, nobody cares. Who you got that extra hit against to get to 260? They don't care. Or if you hit 3 home runs in your last game of the year to get to 20, they don't care. It still goes into the contract negotiations. And if you can get healthy against one team, come on with it.
Looked like Lagares may have been shaken up on that last play. The situation there, and of course that is the last thing in the world that Terry Collins would want to hear about when they get back to the dugout in the end of this second inning. It's 2-0 to Votto, who's still not seen a strike in his first 2 plate appearances.
So might we see 7 in a row?
We might. It would be again a Reds record. Votto setting a Reds record his first time up by walking in a 6th consecutive plate appearance. You've got to go all the way back to, well, this wouldn't be hard to guess. Barry Bonds, 2004, the last player in the big leagues to walk 7 or more times consecutively. I think I saw all those playing in that same division with Bonds. That's the incredible thing about those years with Bonds and all the times he's walking compared to these years where Votto is walking. I mean, by a margin of 3 or 4 to 1. The intentional walk rate would be Bonds to Votto. Votto is rarely intentionally walked.
He's just battling at the plate. As I mentioned earlier, 4 of those 5 walks, he had 2 strikes on him in the game against Pittsburgh.
Bouncing ball to short. And the inning is over. 1 hit, 1 left. End of 2. Reds lead. Hello there, 5-1. Reds Weekly. Players Weekend might be over, but it was a big hit among the players. Joe Morgan says the stolen base has become a lost art. And the RBI program continues to grow in and around Cincinnati. Jeff Piccolo, Doug Flynn. A brand new Reds Weekly tomorrow, 6 o'clock on Fox Sports Ohio.
We're playing Earl Weaver baseball now.
Yes.
That's why you don't steal bases. You don't want to take a chance on getting a guy thrown out.
Yes.
When you might be able to play for the 3-run homer.
Ground ball, and that's into center field. A base hit by the pitcher Flexen. That's his second hit in 11 at bats. Romano coming off a 1-2-3 first inning, or second inning. In the first inning, he walked this guy to start the game, Jose Reyes. A wild pitch sent him to second base, and then a double with one out by Cabrera drove him in for the lone New York run so far tonight. Nice play up there in the front row. Very nice. Big fella. Needs some room to stretch out there, Cowboy. Can't be sitting next to his buddies up there. Big man. Got to stretch out a little bit.
Well, there's some of us like to stretch out so that they don't reach over and grab my nacho.
He might be one of those guys.
Caught that ball right now. That's all that matters.
That guy's got to be. You guys got to be 6'5", 6'6", maybe taller than that. Hooked into right field. That almost got the pitcher flexing. Boy, that ball was stung by Reyes. Runners at first and second base with nobody out to start the Mets' third inning.
Like a breaking ball right in the middle of the plate. And right into the swing of Jose Reyes. And this is why Reyes is in the ballgame. Not because he can catch the ball, as we've seen. That may prove to be a arduous task here tonight. But he can hit.
So 2 on with none out. Nimmo struck out swinging his first time up. News from Nationals Park in Washington, D.C. Giancarlo Stanton in the first inning clubs his 51st home run of the year. It is his 18th home run here in the month of August, which ties for the second most of any player all time in a calendar month. Sammy Sosa, many will remember that incredible home run race year of '98. Sammy hit 20 home runs in June of 1998 alone.
Yeah, he caught McGuire.
It's off Edwin Jackson way back.
Yeah, I was on that '98 club in St. Louis with McGuire and Sosa going at it. That was a sight to behold.
Well, it was incredible. And I know a lot of people will look back cynically, skeptically, rightfully so, as far as both players are concerned. But, you know, while it was going on, it was so exciting. And really, many will tell you on so many fronts, it almost rescued baseball from a nearly dead.
Well, especially after the commissioner canceled the World Series in 1994.
And there were a lot of turned off people that had decided they weren't ever coming back.
Ever.
Remember that 1995 National League Championship Series at Old Riverfront Stadium? There were a lot of empty seats, and that's something you would never see in a city like Cincinnati. Look at those two sizing each other up. Another bark in the park night tonight. Perfect weather for our four-legged friends, man's best friend. All our friends from the SPCA Cincinnati here tonight. There's a fastball in there, strike three, and that's the second time the Mets right fielder has gone on strikes. The only 2 strikeouts so far for Romano.
Fastball starts in and just comes right back over the inside corner. You can almost see Romano as he gathers himself on the mound to come to the plate. He's falling to the first base side before delivery point. Now what that does is it makes it very difficult to drive the ball down in the strike zone. Even that pitch there was up.
Cabrera doubled homer run with a line drive up against the left field wall in the first inning. His 40th run batted in. You know, we think about the shortstop position here in Cincinnati and how it's been handled just so spectacularly through generation after generation, going back to, you know, Davey Concepcion, and Barry Larkin comes to town, and, you know, right on down the line, and currently the last number of years with Zach Cozart. Think about the last couple of shortstops for the Cleveland Indians. They had this guy for a long time, and that cat that's there now is going to be a real long time.
Francisco Lindor. You know, when I saw Lindor in the beginning, I mean, he's not a big stature kid, and you see him play shortstop and you think, boy, he can really pick it. He can hit.
Of course, they had Omar Vizquel there for a long time too, even though he initially broke in out west with Seattle. He spent a lot of his best seasons playing for the Cleveland Indians on some great teams in the 1990s.
I think any time that you have a shortstop that can pick it, and really defensively from anywhere, but especially at shortstop or second base, that's fun to watch. Because shortstop, you get that pick in the hole, and then you have the dramatic throw back across the diamond.
Votto behind the bag will go to second. That's a nice play there, and a just missed turning what would have been an incredible double play. Really nice play there by Votto. Really nice.
This is a phenomenal play by Votto to get a speedy base runner in Reyes.
Reyes had to be stunned when he saw Cozart come over to cover that bag.
I don't know that Reyes was going full speed. Reyes looked back over his right shoulder and was seeing Votto going towards the line. Didn't look like he was in major hustle mode going into second base.
Well, you took the words right out of my mouth. Without seeing the replay, it'd be hard to believe as well as he runs. But we move forward. Runners on the corners for Flores. That's a nice play by Tucker Barnhart, smothering that pitch in the dirt, preventing that runner from coming down the line.
And it's very obvious here in the early going that Sal Romano is fighting himself a little bit. You can see him almost out of your entire picture going to the first baseline, and that's affecting his release point.
And yet I don't think we have seen a visit as we did. Remember the game you and I did in Atlanta when Robert Stevenson seemed to be going out of whack. Tucker Barnhart was seemingly out there about every third, fourth batter. Romano coming off back-to-back excellent starts. That game in Atlanta and then against Chicago, his most recent outing. Straight away center field. Billy Hamilton drifting will have room at the track, and the inning is over. 2 hits to start the inning. The Mets strand 2. Good play by Votto in the inning. affected by Hurricane Harvey by visiting redscross.org or texting the word Harvey to 90999. By doing that, you make a $10 donation that enables the Red Cross to prepare for, respond to, and help people recover from this disaster. And by all accounts, you know, the initial days of that thing, I mean, what you read in the newspapers and see on TV is you know, with all the devastation, that they're doing a pretty good job at getting help to people right away. And of course, it's not just the government. I mean, it's everybody. It's everybody that's pitching in together. And you know, we like to send out a special thank you to Adrian Salinas and the rest of our Fox technical operations. That is headed up in the Woodlands, Texas, right outside of Houston. And basically, they came to work last Friday. They've not left the office in over 5 days. And I mean, they have families too. And they've kept not just Fox Sports Ohio on, but all of the Fox regional networks that are on the air around the country. So Adrian Salinas and so many, many others. Our thoughts and prayers are with all of you, your families, your friends, and everyone there in the area. Some of the pictures, just you think you might be having a bad day, or maybe something's going on at home that is not exactly the way you want it. Then you look at some of the pictures of the situations people are in right now down there in Texas and Louisiana too. There are other parts.
Yeah, what I think is amazing about all of that is just the fact that there are people helping people, and not people that are in law enforcement or working with FEMA or emergency management. It's people that are down the street or in a neighborhood next door that just happen to have a boat, or for some folks a mattress that they blew up, and trying to get people out of desperate situations.
A lot of people from Cincinnati. I know Matthew 25 Ministries, and there are many other organizations, faith-based organizations, that are already on their way, if not already down there already, doing what they can. Organization we brought up earlier, the SPCA Cincinnati, they're already down there doing their part. I mean, some of you may have seen some of the pictures of people literally tying their dog to a tree and leaving.
That won't work.
I saw a stat today which it made you almost want to fall out of your chair. There's a fly ball into right field by Duvall. This should be the first out of the inning. The amount of rainfall they have had in that area equals 7% of the amount of water that is in Lake Erie.
Yeah, well,
and all the meaning now and then all the subsequent flooding that goes along with it. Jim Day, I know you had something to add to this story.
Well, Homer Bailey is from LaGrange, Texas, outside of Houston, and that town has been devastated. I talked to him today, and he said that his house is fine and his family is luckily fine, but there are tons of people that he knows in that town that are struggling. And he said it's really hard to be 1,000 miles away and not being able to help. He's going to send some finances that way, but he would like to just, as you talked about, people helping people, get in a boat and go around and make sure everyone's all right. But he said the town they live in, it's one of those towns where everyone knows everyone, and they're just calling around and making sure everyone's okay. So, you know, taking care of their own. But so far, so good with his family and his home.
Well, Jay Bruce has taken things even a step further. Now, he's from Beaumont, Texas. Through September the 10th, all donations made by the Cleveland Indians fans to the Cleveland Indians charities will go to Jay Bruce's efforts to aid those in need down in Texas. Jay and his wife Hannah will match up to $100,000 in donations through September the 10th. There's a fly ball to right, and that's a second out of the inning. And by the way, even the Reds have gotten involved in this. Just announced before the game today, the Reds are encouraging fans to support Hurricane Harvey relief efforts in this series against the Mets. The community fund will be donating its portion of the split in the pot ticket sales during all 3 games towards Hurricane Harvey relief. If you'd like to contribute, we told you how you can do that with the American Red Cross earlier. And of course, Major League Baseball encouraging all fans to help victims of this devastation by going to youcaring.com/MLB supports. Lots of ways you can get involved, and the Reds are doing the same. Reds lead 5-1, all 5 runs coming in the first inning, and Suarez started that party with a 2-out bases loaded RBI single, and he was aboard when the man on deck hit a grand slam. This one hooked into left field by Suarez. He has another hit, another extra base hit. Suarez has been an extra base hit machine.
Another breaking ball from Flexen, and another ball smoked off the bat of Suarez. It's the one thing about Eugenio, it just seems like he has been able to keep his hands back even in some of his struggles, and I think it's allowed him to recognize pitches sooner. He's been able to take more pitches, leading to a higher on base percentage, and ultimately making pitchers have to come into his sweet spot, and that's where he's getting the ball into the gap or out of the ballpark.
Stanton in Miami, Hoskins in Philadelphia are the only 2 players in the National League that have a higher slugging percentage than Suarez does here in the month of August. Followed by Blackmon, Bellinger, Goldschmidt. I think you've heard of all 3 of them. First career grand slam off the bat of Scott Schebler came in the first inning tonight. Well, they hadn't played perfectly there, because that was a rocket, and the second baseman from short right field throws him out. 5-1, Reds in front, end of 3.
And a big old Reds congratulations, and a Fox Sports Ohio congrats to Reds catcher Stuart Turner. He and wife Danielle welcomed in a baby boy. This is Easton Michael Turner, 9 pounds 7 ounces, 20.5 inches long, born on August 26, 2017. And mom and child are doing well in Louisiana. And Stuart Turner said it's always hard to leave home no matter what, but this was the hardest ever to hold his baby boy for the last time and have to come back to Cincinnati. But in the land of technology, he's getting constant text updates, and they have a camera hooked up where he can just kind of look in on the youngster and see what's going on. So congratulations to Stuart and Danielle, the newest addition to the Reds family. And I don't know what it is in the air with the catchers. Love is in the air in nature, but this would the second of 3 births this season by Reds catching. Mesoraco, now Turner, on deck, Tucker Barnhart.
He's more than on deck. He's making his way to the plate. There's a fly ball in the right, and that's a first out here in the New York 4th inning. Congratulations to the Turners. You had to do that, Cowboy, as a young player.
Yeah, it's not the easiest thing, especially when the baby is born and then you have to turn and leave. But it's what you sign up for. But I will say this, your job in Major League Baseball takes on a whole new perspective when you have a baby. It's a totally different outlook rather than just looking at what the game can do for me. What can I do for that little boy? Then all of that work, all that running, all the sweat and the tears, it's not just about you anymore. And it changes your outlook on the game.
Dominic Smith bounced out to Joey Votto his first time up. They put a big shift on this young left-handed slugger. It's Cozart on the other side of a second base bag. Romano working out of the windup. This will be his 60th pitch of the night. Well, that's a good looking dog right there. I don't know if I've ever seen one look quite like that. And then that little one right next to him.
That's one of those dogs when you're walking down the street and you start to step in their yard, you'd say, excuse me. I think I'm going to the other side of the street.
He looks like a happy guy. Swinging a foul ball out of play.
That's not a yap yap. That's a roar.
There's no doubt. That's a roar. Now that little one. See, the funny thing is the little ones, the puppy like that, you know, they're the ones that want to play, and now they'll come up and bite you, you know, playing around.
Yeah.
But man, they got them sharp young teeth. The big fella down there just wants to take a little snooze. It's a bouncer to Votto. He'll handle this one himself, and that's a second out of the inning. Coming up later on, we'll have our Miller Time moment brought to you by Miller Knight. You know, my wife Polly said to me, well, why don't you take our dogs down there? And I said, if I were our dogs, I would never leave to want to go anywhere except for a walk. I said they've got the greatest setup in the history of mankind. I'm like, are you kidding me? You think they want to come down to the ballpark? They're both laying there looking at us like, Mom, Dad might be onto something there. Here's Rosario.
I think it's got to be pretty cool for people that maybe are single folks, or maybe their spouse works at night and you want to come to a ball game, and you can come to the game and bring your dog. You don't have to leave them at home.
Well, I tell you what, those tickets sell rapidly. I mean, most of the nights, I don't know about tonight, I think we have over 400 dogs tonight. Most of the time, that section will sell out on the 4 or 5 Bark in the Park nights we have per year now.
Oh, that was nasty.
Romano, a 1-2-3 4th inning. That's his 3rd strikeout. After 3.5, it's Bark in the Park at the Yard tonight. Reds lead 5-1. Saturday, September the 16th at Great American Ballpark. And thanks to our friends at John Morrell, the first 20,000 fans through the gates receive a triple bobblehead. This is a great idea. Of Reds first baseman past and present. Tony Perez, Sean Casey, Joey Votto on the same bobblehead. That's a 4-10 start, we remind you. That's a great idea.
Cool.
Tucker Barnard, first pitch swinging, drives one to right center. They had him shaded that way, and that's one pitch and one out.
Well, uncharacteristically for Chris Flexen, he's retired the leadoff batter in every inning. Now, he still does not have a 1-2-3 inning yet. And as I mentioned earlier, he's only had 4 of those all year.
Well, you got Romano on strikes. He is fan 3. So the first time through the order, he allowed 5 runs and 3 hits with 2 walks. This is now the final batter the second time through the order. He's allowed 2 hits, no runs, no walks. And he has his 4th strikeout of the night, the second against the Reds pitcher Romano. Mets have won 14 consecutive games against the Reds. That is really, really hard to believe. Now, in fairness, Cowboy brought it up earlier. These last 2-3 years, Mets have had some good teams. One team that reached a World Series 2 years ago.
Well, it doesn't appear that Jose Reyes is going to play way in with Hamilton at the plate this time. After he smoked that ball over his head.
No, in fact, I think he's sitting out in the second deck out there.
He was playing in here earlier.
You go back to September of 2013. The Reds have lost 19 of the last 21 to the Mets. The last time the Reds beat the Mets was September the 6th of 2014 here at Great American Ballpark. And this will be a rare 1-2-3 inning for Mr. Flexen. See, Reyes was right the first time playing shallow like that.
Is on the 2nd overall pick in the draft. That is Hunter Green. The phenom made his pro pitching debut. Gave up a hit to the first guy he faced, but then got this fielder's choice out. Now watch the athleticism here. Already got a good pickoff move. How about that? His fastball averaged 100 miles per hour through 15 pitches, 12 strikes, a scoreless inning. He'll go every 5 days until the Billings rookie season ends, and they'll try to extend him out. Other minor league honors, the Dayton Dragons' Taylor Trammell, who was drafted last year, named to the MLB Pipeline Team of the Week, along with Tony Santillan. Right-handed pitcher. Good numbers for both, and certainly both of you should keep your eye on. File those names away.
We will. You can rest assured. I know, Jim Day, you'll be all over that beat. Your news and notes we have right before every single game right here on Fox Sports Ohio. Keeping an eye on what's going on in the Reds clubhouse, and nobody mans that beat better than Jim Day. Tapper down to third. Suarez, a pirouette, and a throw is in time to get Lagares at third. Well, I thought when he had to go that one extra hop, I wasn't sure, but how about that play?
Even Suarez has a bit of a smile on that play. We talk about it time and time again. Lately, more from the offensive standpoint for Suarez than anything else, but his defense, it's been spectacular.
Pitcher flexing is swing and a miss on a pitch over his head. 5 in a row now retired by Romano. He walked the first batter of the game. 2 batters later was behind 1-0 on a double by Cabrera. Since then, he has only allowed 1 base runner. 2 base runners, back-to-back singles to start the New York third, and he got out of that unscathed. Four strikeouts in the game by Romano. You know, Joe Luckin, our statistician, did some interesting statistical work coming into the game tonight. So far here in the month of August, pitchers on the Red staff. Now, this includes Raisel Iglesias in the 27 and older crowd. Okay, so you're taking the Reds' best pitcher and you're putting him in with this group. All right. Their ERA in basically the same number of innings. It's basically, for all intents and purposes, it's a wash. It's a 5-inning spread between guys 26 and younger and 27 and older. The guys 27 and older, and it's guys like Storin and Homer Bailey, among others, their ERA this month is almost 8. The guys 26 and younger, 3.75. And a whip of 0.8. That's walks or home runs per inning, I beg your pardon. 0.8 home runs per 9 innings from all these young guys. And we're talking about Lorenzen, Stevenson,
Castillo as much as anyone.
No doubt. But also Romano, Peralta, Malley the other day, Shashin and Farrell, who have joined the team, and Bryce. So it's, hey, you got to start somewhere. Fox Sports Ohio, brought to you by Cincinnati Children's, changing the outcome together. And by your local Ford dealer, Ford. Go further. Always a special hello to those watching over at Cincinnati Children's tonight. Hope it's been a great day for you, and we certainly hope and pray for an even better one tomorrow. Reds in front, 5-1. All the runs scored from each team came in the very first inning. Reds got an RBI double with the bases loaded, and RBI single with the bases loaded, and 2 outs in the first inning by Suarez, and then Schebler, to the delight of that duo, clubbed a grand slam. It looked like a Mexican theme costume there. Look at the kid in the sombrero.
That's pretty cool.
I knew you'd like that. There's a base hit in the center. Have you ever dressed one of your dogs up, or a dog up, Cowboy, in a sombrero?
No.
No.
I don't do the dress up thing. Ashley, yeah.
You know,
They may have been in a sombrero. I don't know.
One of the greatest events we have here in Cincinnati. I mean, one of the great winter events is up in Mount Adams every year. It is called the Rain Dog Parade.
The what?
The Rain Dog, like reindeer, but it's rain dog.
Oh.
And so people from all over the region. It's normally a couple of weeks before Christmas. Pat Shepard and the whole Mount Adams Council up there, they put the whole thing together, have for years, and the folks from the SPCA, look at that. He's got his britches on. Just laid back right there. But you dress up your dog in Christmas garb. So you see a lot of antlers and a lot of lights. And I mean, it is an incredible day up in Mount Adams. Every year. I think my dad has been the oh, what do you call it? Come on, the Grand Marshal.
The Master of Ceremony.
Blank. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Couldn't come up with Grand Marshal. I think he's been the Grand Marshal up there about 10, 12 years in a row.
So it's like a parade?
It is. It's an awesome parade. Runs all the way up to the monastery up there at the top of Mount Adams, through the streets in Mount Adams. And it's incredible.
What I'd like to know is, do you think dogs get embarrassed?
Oh, I don't think there's any doubt about it. I think my dad's dog is basically humiliated every time he shows up in a stroller. I mean, could you imagine putting a costume on one of those guys? I know my wife throws those antlers on our 2 dogs every now and again when we'll go out in the middle of the winter, big snowfall, and they're looking at you like, you know, Dad, you know, we normally do this drill. What's the story?
They just like to be loved. That's it.
That's exactly right. And unconditional love the other way. That's for sure. One Novato, who's walked and grounded is short tonight. And he's walked again. IGS bringing the energy in the month of August going back to 1913. A look at the highest on base percentages. Look at those names right there. Now,
it's pretty good company.
I'm not sure you can do any better than that if you're Votto. Bonds, Gehrig, Ruth, Williams. Duvall has struck out swinging and fly to right. Ball is in the air, and is that playable? No. You know what's incredible about Votto, and it seems like we're talking about different numbers from him all the time, but when you consider this, all right, Votto's not had a hit in 4 games. He didn't have a hit the entire Pirate series. Yet, his on-base percentage is .471 in those games. "17 times he's come to the plate, and 8 times he has walked." Double play ball here. Advances on to third. 2 are out here in the Reds' 5th. Reds with a 5-1 lead, and the batter is Scooter Gennett. You know, we've talked about all the good and all the great that so many people are doing for those down in the Houston area. You know, the flip side of all that, and I hate to even say it, but when I read that story in earnest earlier today about the Astros and the Rangers not being able to get it worked out, where they moved that series that was supposed to be played in Houston, that they didn't work it out to move that series to Dallas, and so the 2 teams in Texas go all the way to Tampa. I mean, you know, somebody's got to get a clue. Really got to get a clue. And there's more than one in that operation. For those 2 organizations not to get that worked out is absolutely shameful.
You wonder if there was some competitiveness in the front offices involved in that.
Well, you know, and that may be the case, but there comes a point in time, and you know it, you and I know it, where you got to say, hey guys, competition's fine. We have tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people that are not in their homes. Figure it out.
You know, the only thing that makes me wonder about that is what is the weather supposed to be like in Dallas.
Now that I don't know.
That because there's no dome in Dallas. Not yet.
That's right. That hit the pitcher in the foot, goes to the third baseman, and the Reds are going to get a break. That would have been a ball that the shortstop would have put in his back pocket and thrown the runner out. But instead, it's an infield single and an RBI for Scooter Gennett, and a run for the Reds.
Ball's hit back up the middle, and watch the foot of Flexen. He kicks it up. It hits off of his calf. That's when you're a youngster and you're really not sure exactly where your shortstop was playing. But Rosario was playing up the middle because of the left-handed hitter being Gennett. If that ball gets by the mound, it's an easy out for Rosario.
Gennett will take it. The Reds will take it. Now it's a 5-run lead. And the inning continues for the red-hot Suarez. 2 of 2, an RBI single, a run scored. He also has a double.
I think in order to be a hitter of Votto's type, you can't be afraid of hitting with 2 strikes. Can't worry about it. And I think when you look at Eugenio Suarez, at least what he's verbally talking about, I'm looking for a pitch in a certain spot early in the count. If I get it, I'm pulling the trigger. If not, I'm going to let it go. And you can see that pitch there is a 1-0 count, fastball right on the inside corner. Not everybody looks for a fastball inside. Some guys look for the fastball middle away. And I think Suarez is the type of hitter that likes to get extended. He likes the ball from the middle of the plate towards the outside corner, and that allows him to stay back even longer on the breaking balls. We've seen him hit 2 breaking balls here tonight right on the nose, but the only way you stay back long enough to hit that breaking ball is not looking for a fastball right on the inside edge. I think you look at pitching this day and age, there's not too many pitchers that really pitch inside with any semblance of effectiveness at all, especially right on the inside corner. So why would you look in there?
Suarez will take his walk if they're going to give it to him. That's a second of the inning and 4 in the game given up by Flexen. Well, for Red, it's a home run off the Toyota sign out in right center tonight. Brian Armstrong of Bromley, Kentucky, will win the new Tundra. That one right there. You can register for your chance to win. Just stop by your Cincinnati and/or Northern Kentucky Toyota dealer. That's all for Flexen. This will be our Skyline Chili call to the bullpen. Flexen gone after 4 2/3 innings here tonight on the short end of a 6-1 game. Inning. The night is over for Chris Flexen. 4 2/3, 7 hits so far, 6 runs all earned, and he'll give way to the left-hander Josh Smoker.
Those are not real good numbers. 80 base runners in 40 appearances, or 39. This will be his 40th appearance. Hence the ERA heading towards orbit. You don't normally see Schebler get fooled on a breaking ball as you did on that first pitch. He's been awfully good against left-handed pitching because he keeps that front shoulder in, and he's thinking left center field and try to drive the ball that way.
Right-handed batters against Smoker are hitting .297. The left-handers are hitting .289.
Well, if you're left-handed coming out of a major league bullpen, you got to get left-handers out. It appears he is going to give Schebler a steady diet of the hook here.
See, Schebler has done good work against the left-handers this year. That average against the righties is quite surprising in the 220s. There's a base hit into right field against the left-hander. They're going to wave around Jeanette. Here comes the throw to the plate. And it short hops the catcher, and Jeanette is in there safely. Good throw, and they have Jeanette. Instead, it's a 7-1 lead. Schebler, his 5th run batted in tonight.
Looked like Nimmo tried to throw this ball all the way to the plate rather than throwing the ball over the top of the cutoff man's head. Of course, the cutoff man in Dominic Smith was nowhere to be found until the ball got all the way to the infield.
That's not good.
That's not good baseball.
Throwing error will allow the runners to advance. Pardon me, Cowboy.
When your opponent is not playing good baseball, this is what you do. You capitalize on it.
They intentionally walked Tucker Barnhart to load the bases for Romano. Broken bat. It's a big series tonight inside the National League Central that begins between the Cardinals and the Brewers. Now, they will play other games this year, but one of those two teams is trying to really be the club that is going to make a serious run if either one is capable of Chicago. The Brewers are only 2.5 games behind the Cubs. The Cardinals have really slipped again recently. They're a very odd team. We saw them when they were terrible. They left here, they got hot. And now they've been down again. And they're 5 back. Romano gone swinging, and that'll end the inning. Reds get 2 more and lead at the end of 5, 7-1.
You look at those numbers, 3 hits, 1 run on the board. That run came early in this ball game. But for Romano, he seemed to make an adjustment, not traditional way you would look at pitching. Fastball early in the ball game, even though it was down, it seemed like the Mets were on every one of them. So what did he do? Well, he and Tucker Barnhart, they made the adjustment. They get a changeup out by Rosario there to first base. He comes back with some very consistent sliders as he went along in the ball game. Not sliders in the dirt, but sliders for strikes. And ultimately, he's put this Mets club on their heels.
And putting together another good outing, as he's set to begin the 6th inning to face 2, 3, and 4. Nimmo, he struck out twice, and he's going to get him on a line drive to left. 1 pitch, 1 out to start this inning. Well, you go back to the beginning of July, and that's really when the Reds started to maneuver into this very, very young 4 rookies in their starting rotation. Stevenson was in there, and then he got hurt, and he went back in. But, you know, Castillo twice has gone 7+. Romano twice has gone 7+, and he's trying to get there tonight.
Now, Romano has done it in back-to-back starts, and if he's able to get through 7 here tonight, he will be the first and only Reds pitcher here in 2017 to pitch 3 consecutive games of 7 innings.
How about that?
And when that happens in August for some of your young pitchers extending into September, that tells me these guys are making some progress. And that's all you ask. When you've got a young pitching staff, they're going to take their lumps, especially the first few times they get out there, sometimes the first year.
Well, the interesting part of it, of course, is that if somebody would have asked you back in April, who would those young pitchers be? You know, I'm not so sure how many people, if you got to play, you know, the trifecta, as they say in the gambling business, I'm not so sure the trifecta would have come in with Romano, Castillo, Malley, or Stevenson for that matter. I mean, he started the year in the bullpen. And when this year began, I think a lot of people looked at rookie Davis. They looked at Cody Reed.
Amir Garrett.
Amir Garrett, certainly. That might have been your trifecta. And there's a 1-out walk to Asdrubal Cabrera. What did you think, Cowboy? By the way, you were over on the radio side the other day. What did you think of that young man's major league debut on Sunday?
I thought he threw the ball well. I thought his competitive level was outstanding. I thought he handled the third deck, if you will, awfully well to begin with. It just didn't seem like this was something that overwhelmed him at all.
Numbers 2, Malley, who lost that major league debut. He gave up the 3 runs in the 5 innings.
When I see a pitcher come out, especially a youngster that's 22 years old in his first major league start, he's able to command his fastball on both sides of the plate. He throws a breaking ball for a strike when he's behind in the count, and he had a very usable changeup. Tells me that the kid has a lot of confidence in his stuff.
2 down in the inning. Well, his next scheduled start is coming up on Saturday. That'll be against the same pitcher he squared off with at his major league debut, the same team, Jamison Tyone. That'll be a Saturday night game in Pittsburgh. The Reds are leaving. They're only gone for the weekend. Then they turn right back around and come back home to play the Milwaukee Brewers for just a 3-game homestand.
It's kind of crazy part of scheduling, isn't it?
It is sort of weird. And of course, that'll be on Labor Day on Monday, September the 4th. So the Reds will play here tomorrow night, day game here on Thursday, and then a Monday afternoon, Tuesday night, Wednesday afternoon against Milwaukee. We'll see these Mets in New York and St. Louis, and then one more homestand for the Reds, and that's all she wrote in 2017 on the home front. That ball is killed into left field, and it gets by Duvall. They're going to hold the runner at third base. He had to slide down. That's Glenn Sherlock. He's been around baseball a long time, over 20 years with the Arizona Diamondbacks. And it's the first year he's left Arizona to go to the Mets.
Did you notice the stop by Cabrera? Instead of trying to quick foot it and stop, he realizes, okay, I've got to put on the brakes in a hurry. So he does a little pop-up slide and goes right back into the bag. That's a veteran move.
And a real good way not to get hurt.
Right. If you're trying to stab your toes in the ground and stop standing up, that's how you bend an ankle. That's how you hurt a knee.
Sure. Darno with a 2-base hit. So let's see if Romano can get out of this inning with runners at second and third. Reds lead 7-1. 2 out. Smith 0 for 2, twice has bounced out to Votto. Now with the runner at second, they don't have the luxury of putting on the same kind of defensive shift that we saw Smith's first 2 times up.
Well, both balls that have come off the bat for him tonight have been to Votto's left, where actually Votto is playing right now. He was closer to the line in the first 2 at bats.
And he does it again. You just said it, Cowboy. Comes off the line without the shift, and he hits it right by Votto for a 2-run double, or a 2-run single it turns out to be for Smith. That's what you just got finished saying. And so that's why teams, they believe in something, but then when you get runners on base, they don't do the same thing.
You could have identical plays in all 3 swings from Dominic Smith. You see Votto having to dive for that ball, and that was even late coming into your screen. But the problem is, and you said it right off the bat, when you don't have the ability to put Cozart over on the right field side of second because you've got a runner at second, all of a sudden you've got to pull Votto to try to cover some of that territory.
Here's what I want to ask you, though, all right?
Yes.
If you've done all this scouting and you put in all this time and you have a defense that you think works on a particular hitter, okay, there's 2 outs in the inning. Where's the runner at second base going?
Nowhere.
So why wouldn't you employ the same shift if you really believe that that is the best way to prevent a player on the other team from getting a hit? And it worked perfectly the first 2 times up. With 2 outs in an inning and a runner at second and a runner in front of him at third. That's why I asked the question, where's he going? So why wouldn't you just go ahead and play the same way defensively? We'd see all teams do it, though.
I think if you have a veteran hitter at the plate, you've got to create some semblance of positional playing at shortstop with runners at second and third and 2 outs. But with a youngster at the plate, he's just trying to slam it.
And that one just bounces through into right field, and now all of a sudden the Mets are getting some people on base. It had been a while for them. Romano came into this inning, retired the first batter. Had retired 10 in a row until the walk to Cabrera in the 6th inning. But remember, there was a runner at first base and 2 outs in this inning. And since it's been double, single, single. Storin ready in the bullpen.
If this is a 2-2 ball game, Romano's not in the game. But right now, if you're Brian Price, you're trying to let the kid work through a tough situation, especially when he's at the end of his not really his pitch count, because he's only at 92 pitches, but it evidently has been a fight for Romano from the beginning. So whether it's mental or whether it's physical, You want your pitchers to be able to fight through this, especially when they're in that last gasp scenario. You have that leeway here with a 7-3 lead.
Lagares, a batter. He's a number 8 hitter. Tied him up there. 95-mile-per-hour fastball to get ahead, 1 ball and 2 strikes.
You'd like every starting pitcher, young or old, to have that fight to the finish mentality. Now, we don't see complete games like we used to because of the advancement in bullpen, the way managers use their bullpen. But that should not change the mentality of the pitcher that's on the mound.
1-2 on Lagares. 2 on, 2 out. Came back 95 again in. This time doesn't get into chase.
See all that white on Tucker Barnhart's fingers. He's doing that because Romano has a tough time seeing the signs.
Got him swinging, and that will end the inning. So Romano gets through 6. He gives up 2 in the inning. Reds lead 7-3.
You a great value this season. The Kroger Meal Deal. Check concession stands throughout the ballpark for the Kroger Meal Deal, which includes a hot dog, a bag of chips, a 16-ounce Cowboy Coke, and during this homestand, Pepperidge Farm Goldfish. Make sure you get your Kroger Meal Deal today. We all like player participation, right? How about Scooter Gennett and his wife? And meet Leo, their dog, taking part in the pregame parade on Bark in the Park night. Scooter Gennett getting involved, and we like that.
Like that a lot. A lot of the Reds players have been great with the folks over at the SPCA Cincinnati, both Reds and Bengals for that matter. So good to see the Gennett's out there tonight. That's one of the things when you buy a ticket and bring your dog down to the ballpark, you can be part of the parade that goes around on the playing field here at Great American Ballpark about a half hour before the game starts. Smoker to begin the inning. Reds 7, Mets 3, top of the order, last of the 6th inning. Billy tonight is 1 of 3. Had a double over the head of Reyes in the second inning. Now that one looks pretty comfortable dressed up tonight. Not embarrassed, the question you asked earlier. Do they get embarrassed?
Well, I just wondered if dogs did get embarrassed.
It's a good question.
We may never know.
No. Smoker, his second strikeout, takes care of Billy Hamilton.
So what is that dog there? Is that a?
I think that's a
snickerdoodle.
I think you're right. I think that's what that dog is.
Or labradoodle.
Now that one might be labradoodle.
Snickerdoodle's a candy, I think.
No, snickerdoodle is a labradoodle. Yeah, you're right. Snickerdoodle. You think of food first, and then I mean, you were telling us, but in between innings here that that you actually have a designated. You have a designated eating shirt.
I do.
I've never heard of that before.
Well,
so I'm assuming that means if you're having something like before you're getting ready to go to bed at night. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
You don't put it on like around the dinner table, the family dinner table, right?
Not unless it's really messy. I have been handed that designated eating shirt by my wife before. Take that one off and give it to me. So
it's a T-shirt, right?
Yeah, it's like a little Under Armour shirt that has a lot of grease stains on it.
Through the years.
Through the years, yeah.
Through the years.
It fits nice and loose, so I can expand where I need to.
Well, everybody understands that part. We all get it. So it all started with me asking you about this bucket of chicken that you have in the refrigerator that was delivered to you, one of the great Red sponsors, Bob Evans, right? Yes. They brought you some of that up here
I
tonight.
love that stuff.
And I do too. Great place. Ohio born and bred, of course, Bob Evans and their farm here in Ohio. So, and I was asking you, do you think you'll have a little bit of that tonight when you go home? And you just very casually made the comment, yeah, as soon as I throw on that eating shirt. And we all
yeah, I didn't know you were going to mention it on the air.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I should have asked you about that.
That's all right. I'm an open book.
I think it's a great idea.
Maybe some people out there will use a eating shirt.
Believe me, I think anybody who has to put on a shirt like we do to get ready for work at night, dozens of times, guys who go to work all day. Now, see, look, it doesn't look like, it's not a bib, is it?
No, it's a shirt.
You remember that a couple years ago?
I do remember that.
You were showing us your barbecue style.
Jeez. That's about how I work it. But I've ruined enough shirts in my lifetime to understand now in my older, I hope, wiser age that sometimes you need an eating shirt.
I think it's one of the best ideas I've ever heard. See, that's why when you're all dressed up and come to the ballpark, when I go eat dinner every night, I throw on a shirt that I just keep a couple of them back here.
So
because I spill it on me every night if I wear a regular shirt.
You could say you have an eating shirt.
Well, yeah, kind of. Here at the ballpark.
I just happen to have it designated.
I think it's awesome. And I'll bet you right now there are a lot of people that are dialed into the Reds game tonight where the guy's sitting at home.
No, he's not saying it. His wife is saying it. You know what? That's a pretty good idea for my husband. Because I am tired of trying to get these stains out.
It might be like Black Friday tomorrow in and around Reds country. Many, many people racing to the stores early tomorrow morning to go get their husband's eating shirts.
Well, you don't have to go to the store. You just get one that's got the stain in it already, and that way you don't have to fool with trying to get the stains out. Here, honey, put this on. It's dinner time.
It's good stuff. 1-1 to Votto. breaking ball away. But see, you know, it makes me think, and I'm always trying to, you know, bring it on to the next level. It's so much so that I've put that one nearly to sleep. That you put the shirt on, but I think most people would agree that you put a shirt on and, you know, you still got your slacks on. I mean, you got a nice, you know, slacks and suit here tonight and the whole 9 yards. And I mean, look, you could take a bite into something that happened and drifted, you know, like drip down on your thigh, on your pants.
Not so much for me.
No, okay.
It's more the shirt.
All right. Fair enough. 2-2 the count on Votto. And we'll do it again.
You watch Votto's facial expression sometimes when he's facing a pitcher that is throwing him a boatload of breaking balls, won't come over the plate. He stands in that batter's box almost saying with his eyes, come on, let's go. Give me something here so I can mash it.
Two and two to Votto. Smoker the pause and a glance over at first.
Like that little look right there. That's the confidence of a great hitter. Did you really think I was going to swing at that? That's up. It's a foot outside. Come on.
Started to go, and he did not go around. That is yet another walk to Votto. That is his third walk of the game after walking 5 times here on Sunday.
It's also another alter benefit for Votto. By choking up, it gives him extreme control of the bat head in pitches like that. If you're down on the very end of the bat, it has a tendency to have that heavy leverage at the end and break that wrist forward, and you get a called swing. You're choked up as Votto is there. He's able to stop the bat head.
Jeurys Familia just made his first outing a couple of days ago since the month of May. He's back on the active roster after a blood clot in his right shoulder. He'll take over when we come back. College football season kicks off this weekend. A special edition of Tri-State Tailgate presented by Columbia Hyundai Genesis tomorrow. 5:30, both UC and the Ohio State Buckeyes getting ready for Thursday night season openers. Plus a look at the relationship between Andy Dalton and his new weapon, Mr. Ross. An all-new Tri-State Tailgate. Jeff Picoro, Tony Pike gears tomorrow 5:30. Looking forward to catching that before we get going with Reds Live. Matt Reynolds takes over in left field. Reyes back to his regular spot at short. And Ahmed Rosario out of the game as Familia takes over on the mound. It's good to see him back. Placed on the disabled list May 11th. Arterial clot in his right shoulder. Has 104 career saves, does Familia. Back last year, he set a franchise record and led the major leagues with a whopping 51 saves for the New York Mets.
That's a lot of saves. That's a lot of appearances.
I mean, they were worried this guy might never pitch again when they initially diagnosed that clot.
I think anytime that you talk about the shoulder, there's always that question, will he be able to return? Familia has always had that hard sinking fastball. Those are the types of pitches when you hit them and they're down, it's like hitting a tire. The bat just rattles.
His first game back, well, you know, it was his first game back. He allowed 4 hits, 2 walks, 3 runs in 1 inning. Two and two on Duvall. Reds are batting in the bottom of the 6th inning. 3 and 2. Duvall gone swinging for the 2nd out. So it's been strikeout, walk, walk, strikeout. Not a single ball has been put in play in this half inning.
I think the key for any pitcher in Familia's spot, we've seen it a little bit with Home Bailey, when you're out with surgery and then you come back, you may be able to physically throw the ball with the same motion and get the same type of velocity, but your command is on. And up here, it's really all about command. It's not about physical stuff. I think that's what the Mets hope for in Familia. Get him an opportunity to get back out there here in August and September, throw the baseball, try to work back towards that better command that he had when he was their closer. And you hope that his stuff will be ready to play when the health of Syndergaard and Harvey, Steven Matz, Wheeler, those guys are able to come back in the future.
Popped up short left field, and Reynolds, his first try, comes on to get it, which will retire the side. 2 left. We go to the 7th. Reds lead by 4. Mets scored a run in the first inning, but Suarez would answer now with the bases loaded, a single to tie it in the bottom of the inning. And then behind him, Schebler, his first career grand slam to the seats in right center field. Schebler would make it a 7-1 game with an RBI single, 5 RBIs in the game. It's the second time Schebler has knocked in that many runs in a game, which is a career high. Smith made it a 4-run spread with a 2-out 2-run single to right. And that's where we stand as we go to the 7th. And the Reds will go to their bullpen. Sal Romano, 6 innings of 3-run baseball, so his 3rd straight quote-unquote quality start. And taking over is the right-hander Drew Storen. Matt Reynolds came on as part of a double switch, and he will lead things off, batting for the first time here in the 7th. Romano's 6 innings of 6 hit, 3-run baseball, all earned. He walked 2 batters, struck out 5, and 4 pitches short of 100 in the game.
And I think every ball game for a starter, you're going to have some different feel for your stuff. And tonight, it looked like Romano had an awfully good feel for his slider. Fastball location, probably not what we saw in the last 2 ball games, but that's how it is with starting. There are going to be some ball games where you have a great changeup, some you have a great breaking ball, and you have to pitch accordingly. Then there are going to be other nights where every fastball you throw is right on the money, right at the kneecaps.
Reds attendance tonight short of 13,000, 12,946. Breaking ball misses up and in.
You were talking about Matt Reynolds hitting, Tom. Reynolds, as we talked about earlier, shortstop by trade, playing left field, and he replaced a guy in Reyes that went from left field to shortstop. And we know Reyes' history. He has always been a shortstop.
Off the end of the bat, a pop up into short left. Duvall will come in to get it, 1 out. Cardinals all over Milwaukee tonight. That game in the 5th inning, and the Cardinals with a 7-1 lead. The Pirates and Cubbies are sailing right along. They're in the 5th inning already at Wrigley Field. Of course, they started an hour later than we did. 0-0 Pittsburgh and Chicago. They opened that series last night with the Cubs winning the opener. Good series later tonight out west. A couple of teams having good seasons. The Dodgers, of course, having one of the great seasons in the history of baseball. They'll be playing in Arizona. You know, there was a time, and we've talked about it from time to time, where, you know, the first 3 months of this season, it looked like the Diamondbacks and the Rockies were going to just completely eliminate any other team from even the thought of being involved in a wild card race in the National League. I mean, both those teams were 20, 21, 22, 23 games over 500. Well, not anymore. I mean, all of a sudden, look at Milwaukee. 3 back in the wild card. Miami 4.5 at 2 games over. Cardinals still in it.
Miami's been on a little bit of a run.
They sure have. They played good baseball down there under Don Mattingly.
The thing that I think is going to be very interesting, Tom, is as we get into September, the National League Central, which has been Brewers and Cubs for the most part, the Cubs have a road trip you would not want to have if you're the division leader. When they go into Tampa Bay, who is in the AL wildcard hunt, and they go from Tampa Bay into Milwaukee for a 4-game series, and they leave Milwaukee and go to St. Louis for a 4-game series. That's 2 4-game road trips after playing in Tampa Bay.
Well, every one of those games will be big games.
Yeah.
For one, if not both. That American League wild card, I'm going to tell you what now. That is going to be something to watch. You've got the Yankees in Minnesota, the top 2. You have 6 teams behind those 2 within 3 games. I mean, we're only showing you the short list there. Because after Tampa Bay at 2.5, you've got both Kansas City and Texas 3 back in the wild card.
And Baltimore right now is hitting like there is no tomorrow. It seems like every game they're scoring 5 or 6 runs.
They call Reyes out at second base. That looked to be a surprise right there. You surprised by that call?
Now, if that stands, it's going to come down to the ability of Cozart to catch the short hop and still be able to apply the tag.
Well, I'm sure his foot was blocking the bag initially, but it's hard to believe that Reyes doesn't get that. Maybe he got the tag before the left hand because of the block by Cozart. That appears to be a good call.
Well, when you reach, as Reyes did there, and you hit the foot, all of a sudden all of your momentum is coming into that hand that's on the foot of Cozart. You don't have the ability to take the hand off that foot and reach for the bag. As you can see, his hand gets close to the bag, but it looks like it's right up on the foot of Zach Cozart.
It's one of the reasons when you were here the first week when Joe Morgan was with us on the booth, and Chris was last week, and he'll be with us again here tomorrow night. Boy, this is one of his real pet peeves on multiple levels. He says, you know, you go in there feet first, there's no way, and the call is out at second base. There's no way that defender's putting that foot in front of the bag. Call is confirmed. And then, of course, that doesn't even begin to talk about the possibility of injuring your hand, your wrist, your shoulder, getting hit with a thrown ball in the head, getting spiked.
But it is the quickest way to the bag.
He did say that night as well. Look at Barnhart, now the sole leader in Major League Baseball, having thrown out the most runners attempting to steal. So Storen gets a break from his catcher there and from his shortstop.
Yeah, that's a tough play for Cozart because the ball was bouncing up. Not only did he have to catch the ball and corral it with the momentum of the ball carrying your glove up, but to get it back down quickly on a speedy runner like Reyes.
Swing and a foul tip by Nimmo into the glove of Barnhart. Scoreless 7th for Storen.
Stopper tonight. Chris Sale strikes out his 1,500th batter, the fastest in MLB history in 1,290 innings pitched, playing in Toronto. One of the best of the best.
Well, what an addition he has been, that's for sure, for the Boston Red Sox. I mean, the numbers are just incredible for Sale. Although, having said that, if I'm a Boston fan, as good as he's been, and the 2 outings he's had against the Cleveland Indians this year, they have battered and bruised Sale. I mean, they lit him up so bad his last start. I'm surprised his ERA did end up climbing over 3 because he's having an incredible year. But doesn't like to try.
Or they don't like him.
Right.
Or maybe they do. You know, Sale made an interesting statement about a month ago talking about all of the new nuances of pitching philosophy and statistics and all of those things. He said, I don't get into all that scouting report, all that stuff that's going on, all the new stats. He said, what the catcher puts down, then I'm trying to execute my pitch. That's it. Now, granted, he's got some special talent that allows him to be able to do that. Not everybody can do that. And maybe it makes it easier for him that he's got a catcher that can do the homework and call the ball game and call it correctly. Doesn't always work out that perfectly. But I just thought it was interesting that he said that. He's a pretty good pitcher.
Oh, he's a real good pitcher. Told you Schebler has matched his career high with 5 runs batted in the game tonight, including his first career grand slam. That was in the first inning. a sail for that Boston team, among others. But they really had to pick up the slack without David Price. Price has only made 11 starts the entire year. Price has made more news off the field than he has on the field this year. What with his, you know, really comments he made to Dennis Eckersley on a team plane in front of all of his teammates, when most people felt like that's something that Price could have handled one-on-one with Dennis Eckersley, who handled the whole thing with, I thought, I don't know what you think, Cowboy, I thought a tremendous amount of class.
Yeah, I think sometimes when you're hurt, as Price has been really for the extent of this year, not being able to do what you normally do, sometimes instead of doing your talking with your pitching arm, you do your talking with your mouth, and then you realize, well, that probably wasn't the best way to handle that.
Schebler chasing a fastball up. Tell you, Familia's got some giddy up still in that fastball coming back from the blood clot in his shoulder. That was at 97 miles per hour. He's retired 4 in a row.
Looked like a four-seamer. He was just trying to run up in the zone. And that's a good place to pitch Schebler. Now you get it down below the hands, he'll hammer it. Above the hands, not so much.
Here's Tucker Barnhart. Barnhart tonight 0 for 2, was intentionally walked in the 5th. Reds are batting here in the last of the 7th inning with a 7-3 lead in game 1 of a 3-game set with the Mets. 1 ball, 1 strike. Kevin Shackelford getting loose in the Reds bullpen. More than likely he will come on and pitch. They got 1 inning out of Storen. Walked a batter, did not allow a hit or a run. Had 1 strikeout. Reds have Homer Bailey on the hill tomorrow night. That'll be game 2 of the series against Rafael Montero. And then Stevenson against DeGrom. He's the Mets ace, a 14-game winner on Thursday afternoon. That'll be a 12:35 start. Tickets are available. Boy, oh boy. That is 8 walks given up by Mets pitching in this game, and we are only in the 7th inning. Imagine how he feels.
As I was talking about earlier with Familia, you've got to get him out there, and you've got to get him to throw. He has great movement on the pitches, but it's tightening up that movement and harnessing it around the strike zone. He throws a couple of outstanding pitches, and then all of a sudden the ball's breaking 2 feet on a 96-mile-an-hour fastball.
Patrick Kivlahan will come up and bat for Storen. Down a strike.
Let's see that sinker there. That's money.
Of course, Kiblahan grew up one of the neighbor states to New York in the state of New Jersey, where he attended Rutgers University. We've talked many times that he was a 4-year football player and had a year of eligibility on the baseball team and decided to come on out and wound up being the Big East Player of the Year and has made his living playing baseball. And that will retire the side. 2 strikeouts for Familia, 1 walk, 1 left. The Mets will bat in the 8th inning with the Reds in front 7-3.
It may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cincinnati Reds.
Senior citizen fans, we remind you, thanks to St. Elizabeth Healthcare Orthopedics, you can see the Reds and the Mets. That's it. Day on Thursday, you can be here for half price. Plus, you'll get same-day admission to the Reds Hall of Fame and Museum. What a great way to spend your day. 381-REDS or visit reds.com. Look forward to having you here on Thursday afternoon. Weather's supposed to be very nice. Kevin Shackelford will take over to pitch the 8th inning with the Reds leading 7-3.
Yeah, you look at Shackelford's numbers in AAA. His ERA was down in the under 2 closing ball games. He's got the stuff to compete up here. Now it's a matter of harnessing it at the big league level, not trying to do too much with it.
Well, again, it sounds like, you know, we're a continuous broken record up here, and whether it's talking about pitchers on the Reds team or pitchers on the other teams, I mean, you really could put it on just a loop and say, well, look at the walks category, and you're talking about command. Guy that throws 97, those guys really are a dime a dozen anymore. There's a bouncing ball to the right side. But can they command that fastball, Cowboy, throw strikes and get people out? That's a good start. Get a guy to swing at the first pitch in the at bat.
You know, what I'd like to see is every pitcher being given his maximum velocity of what he's ever thrown in his entire life. This is what you throw. You throw 95 or you throw 90. This is the max you've ever thrown in your life. So why are you, if you throw 92 or 93, why are you trying to throw 100? There's no way to command it. And when you get to this level, It's about where you put it and when. And if you have no idea where you're going to put it, then you have no idea when you're going to put it there. And if you think you're just going to rear back and throw your best breaking ball or your best fastball and you're going to get them out up here, not happening.
One ball and one strike for Shackelford against Flores, who is 0 for 3. He came in swinging the bat very well, did Flores. In fact, a few of these Mets came in swinging the bat pretty well right now, even for a team that's not having a good year. And you know, a lot of guys, backup players, minor league players that are getting a chance to play here with all the injuries they've had and or trades, as we brought up earlier. And they basically have their third baseman out for the year, hurt. They brought up a rookie to play short. Their second baseman, their first baseman, their right fielder, and their center fielder have been traded. Another starting outfielder got hurt. And then another just recently got hurt. Cespedes has been shut down and won't play in this series. So all those positions are filled by somebody.
It seems like the only player that we've seen with regularity has been Travis d'Arnaud behind the plate. Now, granted, Asdrubal Cabrera has been a regular at shortstop for the Mets. But he's playing second base tonight.
Yeah, right. Hard hit ball on a 1-2 pitch. Looked like some kind of off-speed pitch. Shackelford flipped up there.
Hanging breaking ball.
Well, coming up after the game tonight, and we do it every night after every Reds game here on Fox Sports Ohio. It's called Reds Live, brought to you by Performance Kings Honda. We'll break it all down. Jim Day will be there. Jeff Pecoro from inside the Reds clubhouse. The Cowboy will be there. Like our producer of Reds baseball, Josh Hall, tonight. Our director is Brian Hunterman. Matt Sigafus, Lauren White, our associate producers. Our great crew here at Great American Ballpark that we're so privileged to work with each and every night. Kent Dreamweaver will be producing the post-game show along with Ron Millinor. Go around the horn. There's a high pop up into short left field. And that's a second out of the inning. Well, apparently 2 batters is going to be all for Shackelford. The Reds are going to make a pitching change and bring in Wandy Peralta to face the left-handed batting Dominic Smith. We'll be back in a Sports Ohio brought to you by Kroger. Stop by your neighborhood Kroger to save big store-wide. Great food, low prices at Kroger. By Cincinnati USA Regional Tourism Network. Stay close to CincinnatiUSA.com. And by Toyota. For over 30 offers, visit buyatoyota.com. Toyota. Let's go places. Well, look at that shot. That's when you're coming down the hill into Cincinnati. Beautiful, beautiful skyline. Of course, the Bengals will be revving it up next weekend. Not this coming weekend, but they'll open their season, I believe, at home against the Ravens, if I'm not mistaken. All right, with a left-handed batter in a 4-run game, we have a left-handed pitcher. Wandy Peralta against Smith. And again, here's the same thing we brought up with Smith. Now, with a left-handed batter, left-handed pitcher against a left-handed batter, maybe a little bit different. But we brought up this very same question earlier. The Reds put the big shift on Smith the first 2 times, and he hit ground balls to Votto right next to the line. With runners at second and third, they did not put on the shift the last time, and he hit a ball right, as you just said, he hit 2 balls up the line. He hits another one right up the line for a 2-run single.
And none of the 3 balls that Dominic Smith has hit tonight were actually on the line. They were about 3 or 4 feet off the line, but they had Votto playing way off the line with the runners at second and third. If he's playing where he is right now, it's just a routine out as it was in the first 2 at bats.
Well, he's gone the distance on Dominic Smith at 3 balls and 2 strikes. How about that? Showed you a little something right there. Shooting that ball into left center field as a left-handed hitter. That's pretty impressive there.
3-2 pitch. Sell out for a fastball. He got a fastball out over the plate, just slapped it through the other side.
Pinch hitter going to come up now for the Mets. That's a pitcher spot here in the 7th hole. It'll be Travis Tyrone, outfielder, and a right-handed batter to bat against Peralta. Mets trying to make this thing interesting here in the 8th inning. Made his major league debut after being just brought up 3 days ago on August the 26th in D.C. Another guy having a monster year at AAA. 25 home runs, 78 batted in, 75 scored in 125 games. He was first in the league in games, 4th in doubles, 4th in extra base hits, 3rd in walks when they brought him up. But boy, that one thrown all the way the backstop in the air.
Unfortunately for the Reds, it hit the top of the wall and carried right back to Tucker Barnhart. If it hits the netting, the runner from third could have walked home.
One ball, 2 strikes on Tyrone, and there's a changeup that misses away. Familia threw the ball well here tonight. He'll get his job back. He keeps throwing like that. Meanwhile, Wandy Peralta's come in. He went 3-2 to a left-handed batter who singled into left. He threw a pitch to the backstop to get 2 into scoring position, and now he's gone 3-2 on Tyrone. This guy reaches, the Mets have a tying run coming to the plate. And instead he strikes on what would have been ball 4. Reds will take that. Reds back last of the 8th, leading 7-3. September the 16th at Great American Ballpark, and thanks to John Morrell, the first 20,000 fans through the gates received the triple bobblehead featuring Reds first baseman past and present Tony Perez on that bobblehead, Sean Casey, and of course Joey Votto. You can be here for as low as $12. For tickets, visit Reds.com. Mets go to their bullpen here in the bottom of the 8th.
But you bring on a guy in a 7-3 ball game that has not allowed a run in his last 13 innings. I'd say this kid's doing a pretty good job.
Bradford made his major league debut at AT&T Park in San Francisco on June the 25th. Right-handed batters, of course Hamilton is a switch hitter, but right-handed batters against this guy are 5 for 39.
Pretty good sinking fastball.
He's 27 years old. In fact, just turned 28, I beg your pardon, a couple of weeks ago. He's been a lifer in the Mets organization. I mean, you talk about beating the odds. This guy, 35th round draft choice. He pitched 2 years at the College of Southern Nevada. He grew up in Nevada. In fact, lives in the same hometown as one of your old teammates, Matt Williams, Henderson, Nevada. And then he pitched 2 years at the University of Central Florida. Barehanded play by Reyes, not going to be in time to get Hamilton. Cabrera did it from a second base position earlier in the game and got him. Shortstop, that much is the difference. That's a good play.
At the top of the ball, you could see by the way Hamilton swung at it, that one big hop, all the difference in the world. Even with the bare hand and a snap throw, the ball's in the air too long as it came on the first bounce out in front of home plate.
So here's Cozart. Been on base 3 times tonight. Couple of singles, a walk, has scored a couple of runs. Votto's been on base 3 times. Hamilton now twice.
Yeah, you made the comment early, Tom, about the Mets AAA club being in Las Vegas, and I thought about it again when you said this kid grew up pitching in Las Vegas. Can there be a greater change going from AAA to the big leagues than the light air in Las Vegas and then pitching in New York?
You're right. Very heavy air. Cold in the spring and hot and humid. Is that ball unreachable by the trio after it?
And a huge ballpark.
Sure, absolutely. Pitcher's paradise. Couple of New York guys. How about that? Love is in the air. I think I was trying to get that baseball for one of his little girls look like there. See, at Citi Field, I'm not so sure how that turns out. I'd like to think it would be the same. But there would be some folks agitating along the way sitting around you.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, you know, when 2 guys look like they're going to get into a little bit, there are going to be some people sitting around you in New York. There's a bouncing ball. They get none as that ball is thrown into right field. That'll be a fielder's choice for Cozart. An error charged to the third baseman, Flores. Tell you what, though, I like that Citi Field in New York, don't you?
It's a pretty ballpark.
Yeah, it's a nice ballpark. Really nice. They did a good job.
Like to pitch there.
Back up into center field, a base hit. Votto finally got a chance to swing the bat, drives in a run with a single. On to second goes Cozart. Hamilton scores, and that's a little bit more breathing room for the Reds, making it now an 8-3 game. Votto drives in his 90th run of the year. You know, we talked about Votto the other day, and about for a guy who walks as frequently as he does, he also swings at the first pitch a lot in at-bats over the year. It's the 91st time he has put the first pitch in play. He has swung at 35% of the first pitches this year. Now think about that for a minute. The National League average of all players this year of swinging at the first pitch in an at-bat is 29%. The guy who has walked and gotten on base more than any player in the league swings at the first pitch 6% more than the average. And that number has gone dramatically up for Votto from this time a year ago. Last year, he only swung at 20 or right at 30% of first pitches in at-bats. This year, over 35%.
Well, I think for a guy like Votto that has a tendency to pile up the walk numbers, if you're a pitcher, you're thinking, all right, I got to get ahead with strike one. And normally that's with a fastball. That's the pitch that Votto murders.
But it gets back to that thing you were talking about, Cowboy, about a guy who he's not afraid to
hit with 2 strikes
or even be behind 0-1. I mean, the numbers for most major league hitters is incredible, the difference between 1-0 and 0-1. So even if he fouls a ball off on the first pitch of the at bat, swinging at the first pitch 35% of the time. As Duvall lays into one into deep left field, and that is long gone. So Duvall has kicked the door down. Only 4 for his last 34, and now a bang with 2 aboard. Adam needed that.
Well, spinning breaking ball from Bradford. Not really a spot that you want to leave a breaking ball to a hitter like Duvall. It was down and right in the middle of the plate.
And this ball is kissed off the bat of Jeanette. And that ball is off the wall, and Scooter motoring quickly into second base with a double. The Reds are taking advantage of that error. They have jumped all over Bradford here in this 8th inning. 5 straight batters have reached, and 4 have scored.
Say it all the time. Catcher's mitt will tell you more times than not whether it's a good pitch or not. When that mitt starts to move up and back towards the middle of the plate, he's usually not going to have an opportunity to catch it. It's usually going to be about 300-something feet out there and an outfielder with his back to you.
And now a bouncing ball into center field. The Reds will hold Jeanette at third base.
That is the 4th time tonight that Eugenio Suarez has been on base.
Suarez now, his on-base percentage, listen to this, in the month of August is at .491. .491, and this is the 29th of August. The only players in the league who have gotten on base at a better clip are Votto, Fowler, and Blackman. Reds high flying offensively. We talked about it here in the month of August. 6th time they've scored 10 or more. They only had 4 such games in the first 4 months of the entire year. And here's a guy who's had the best night of anybody tonight. He's driven in a career tying 5 runs.
Well, right now, if he just makes contact, he's got another RBI.
Yep.
Mets are playing back on the infield. Just catch the top half of the ball here. You got to run home.
Swinging a foul ball back out of play by Schebler. 2 balls and a strike. Two 1 pitch. Schebler now coming back off the disabled list. That was when we were down in Atlanta. Remember, he had that first game back, knocked the cover off the ball. Well, 12 for 31 since coming off the DL. That's a .387 average. In 10 games, he's hit 3 home runs and knocked in 11. And now he's drawn a walk. Boy, this is painful. I mean, Dan Worthen, the pitching coach for the New York Mets, on the phone down there at the bullpen. painful for Terry Collins. They are loaded with nobody out. It's the 8th man to bat in the inning, and there's a base hit that'll drive in a run. That'll make it 12-3. So Barnard gets in on the yak. That's Tucker's first hit tonight. Phillip Ervin will come up and pinch hit. When the base is loaded, nobody out. Terry Collins is going to come rescue Bradford here. He had the one misplay behind him, but everything else has been a walk or a rocket.
It appears they're going to bring in Kevin Plawecki off of their bench, a position player to pitch.
Yeah, he's a catcher, isn't he?
He's a pitcher today.
Yeah, that's right. Backup catcher Kevin Plawecki will come on to pitch for the Mets, trailing 12-3, and the Reds have the bases loaded with nobody out.
It's interesting. You have a shortstop. We talked about the two shortstops, Reyes and Reynolds, playing left field. Wilmer Flores, who is playing third, came up as a shortstop. The second baseman tonight for the Mets, also a shortstop, as Drupal Cabrera. And now we've got a catcher pitching.
And he delivers to strike one to Phillip Ervin, the pinch hitter. Plawecki is from nearby Indiana. Went to Westfield High School. Played 3 seasons at Purdue University. Are you kidding me? He's going to get a double play coming into the game. How about that? The Carmel, Indiana native rolls one up. Reds get a run home. Plawecki has pitched already once this season. He went 2 innings, allowed 4 hits, 4 runs, gave up 3 home runs. His only pitching appearance before tonight.
Well, that first appearance, as I've told you many times, you can throw that out the window.
That's right.
It's all about improvement and what you do down the line.
That's exactly right.
He's off to a pretty good start here tonight.
That one pulled down the right field line into the corner by Hamilton. This will bring in a run, and Billy with an RBI double. He has 2 hits in this inning, 3 in the game. And the Reds have tacked on another run. But you talked earlier about getting fat when teams are down earlier in the game, about, you know, padding those stats.
It doesn't matter where you get them or when you get them when the season's over. You just look at the overall numbers. If you can get 2 hits in an inning, more power to you.
Better believe it. $14 runs matches a season high for the Reds. They beat the Giants back on May the 6th, 14-2. And this will bring in another run. No, they're going to hold up Hamilton. There's no sense in rubbing it in the other team's face at this point. And it wouldn't be an RBI anyway for Cozart. It would be a run scored for Hamilton. Second error of this inning by the third baseman Flores.
And he made it on the same batter, Cozart.
Yep. That was one he fielded cleanly, but threw into right field after Hamilton had started the inning with an infield hit. And now Votto bats for a second time, and Plawecki's going to retire Joey Votto.
Write that one down.
He will. Mets will bat in the ninth. All Reds after his 7-run 8th. "30 minutes before the start of every game, right here on Fox Sports Ohio. You know the drill by now. We have Reds Live presented by Ray St. Clair Roofing, and tomorrow we get underway at 6:30. We told you the pitching match a little bit earlier. Rafael Montero will make his 13th start for the Mets, and Homer Bailey his 13th start for the Redlegs. Boy, that guy almost has facially. What a resemblance to the former Met great Doc Gooden. I don't know if in person he looks that way, but that picture sure did.
Gooden was fun to watch.
Oh, man. I remember your old battery mate, my old broadcast partner, Bob Brenly, tells a story about Brenly's only trip to the All-Star game. I think it was, when was it out in San Francisco? 82 or 84? Must have been 84. When Gooden first came to the big leagues. And tells a story of Gooden's on the All-Star team, and Brenly is down in the bullpen, not in the game yet. And they had Gooden get ready in the bullpen, and he's throwing, and I mean, he's throwing hard. You know, this is before everybody's throwing 98 like they are now. And then all of a sudden the phone rang and they said, he's coming in the next batter. And Bob Brenly said the next pitch that was thrown was the hardest pitch he had ever seen thrown in his life. And he said, oh my God. And then he threw him a curveball before he went into the game, and well, he was that good, man. Golly day, was he something. It's another great example, though, about how, you know, everybody's susceptible to falling prey to bad things happening to them. And Lord knows Doc Gooden had a whole lot of that in his career. Yeah, it was 84. He was 19 years old when he made his major league debut, Doc Gooden. His rookie year, he had 276 strikeouts. His rookie year as a 19-year-old. And needless to say, it's an all-time major league rookie record. The following year, he would win 24 games as a 20-year-old with a 1.5 season ERA. It's pretty good.
Pretty strong.
Not bad. That's why I don't mean to sound like an old man, but when I hear people start telling me about pitchers being great now, there are about 3 that are great. I mean, really great.
Well, it's
they
just
don't come close to touching some of the guys that we've seen. You know, when you were playing, guys like Gooden, there's nobody. Now Kershaw's had a couple of those years, but nobody at 20 has a 1.5 ERA and is striking out 300. Nobody.
No, and I think part of it is the way that baseball evaluates their young talent and what they're going to allow them to do. You would not let a young pitcher pitch that kind of innings now.
No, he went 268.
It wouldn't happen.
Yeah, think about that. 19.
Number one, because he would never pitch 200 innings in the minor leagues, so he would never get the opportunity to pitch anywhere close to that at the major league level. And back then, Dwight Gooden would probably only been allowed to pitch 4 or 5 innings in his minor league starts because they would have handled him with kid gloves. That's how you do it now.
Cowboy, to put that into perspective, what you're talking about, I want you to consider this. And this is only really for the hardcore fan out there that really loves the numbers. And we try to avoid some of that stuff because there are a lot of other people that may not be a hardcore fan. But just consider this to back up what you're saying. By the time Doc Gooden was 23 years old, 23, he had thrown nearly 1,200 innings in the major leagues. Now, some might say, did that have something to do with his career not being as long? There were a lot of other factors for Doc Gooden's career not being as long. Right. That could have been a part of it. But, man, was he something. Oh, my. Tom Seaver's the only New York Met to win more games than Dwight Doc Gooden. I pop up third base side. Nearly a great play by Suarez.
You run down that line, you've got your back to the ball, you're trying to avoid that corner where the ball boy's sitting. You got to keep your eye on the ball because you're sprinting backwards the entire time. Or with your back to the ball, I should say.
So Shashin getting a chance to take the ball for the Redlegs for the second time since they brought him up from the minor leagues. Holy Moses. It is 14-3 in the 9th inning. And Shashin has walked 2 batters in a row.
This is the part for Tucker Barnhart where you're not just calling pitches. You have to play part-time psychologist heading out to the mound and try to get this kid back in order.
Well, as many trips as he's made in the mound, he might need to see a psychologist. I mean, now this is a guy who is 0 for 4 in the game. He has struck out 3 times. And after walking 2 batters in a row, you're spinning a first pitch breaking ball up there. Maybe that's why. Whacked into right field, a base hit, and the bases are loaded with nobody out.
Well, normally for Chassin, he is a breaking ball pitcher. He's going to throw breaking balls early and then that sinking running fastball late. You come into a game like this, and if you try to adjust yourself mentally where you're just going to throw just fastballs and try to pitch the normal way, you get out of sync, and that's what we're seeing right now. Pitch your way, regardless of the score, be aggressive and get outs.
So 1 away in the inning, bases are loaded for Cabrera.
You could tell him even on the first pitch, Cabrera is just loading up. He's thinking about one thing, and that's driving all 4 home with one swing of the bat.
Wojciechowski, just in case, is starting to get loose in the bullpen. 1 ball and 2 strikes on Cabrera.
I like that sound in that bullpen. Gives you a little added boost of confidence.
Sure. Still 1 and 2 on Cabrera.
Like Cabrera is getting a bit frustrated there as he called timeout, stepping out of the batter's box. See that setup for Cabrera each time. He's holding his left hand right on the front shoulder as he sets up, and he'll tap that front shoulder right before he gets into his motion. The reason he's tapping that front shoulder is to remind himself, keep the front shoulder closed. See him standing. He's going to tap it.
Two balls and two strikes on Cabrera, and that one whacked into right field, a base hit. That'll bring in a run. That'll make it 14-4. And the ball is thrown by the catcher, and Shashin is backing it up. Now Mac Jenkins will come out to the mound to visit with Shashin. And Mac will trot on back. A little chilly tonight. Wearing the long sleeves tonight. Going to get real chilly. Supposed to drop down in the 50s the next couple of nights. Breaking ball in there, strike one to Wilmer Flores. Shashin has walked two, allowed two hits after retiring the first batter in the inning.
Maybe that's what Mac told him. He's thrown two breaking balls here to Wilmer Flores. He's gotten ahead 0-2. Pitch your normal way.
It's foul ball. Reds trying to get these final two outs and celebrate a opening game victory. But they're taking a little bit longer than Brian Price and company had anticipated. They still have Wojciechowski throwing in the bullpen. They'll get one, they'll get two, and that will do it tonight. The Reds get the win by a final count of 14-4. The Mets get one run in the ninth inning, a couple of hits. So the 14-game losing streak dating back to September the 6th of 2014 against these Mets is now over. So we'll be back with more Reds Live right around the corner. You're watching Reds baseball, winners tonight on Fox Sports Ohio.